Good evening, gang, and welcome to the Midnight Festival podcast, a late-night talk show focused around the discussion and analysis of video games. I'm JD's, the first host of this fine podcast.
I'm Kiowa, the second of three hosts.
I guess that makes me Coley's, the third of three hosts.
Colocles.
Anyway, so we have a personal pick on the table for discussion tonight, and the man who picked it is sitting here in flesh and blood, Kiowa.
It was me, Kionisis.
Kionisis, would you like to introduce the game for our listeners?
What game is this?
So my very first pick for the MIDFES podcast is the game Hades by the polarizing studio Supergiant Games.
Polarized?
That's pronounced Hades? I always thought it was Hades.
Hades. Well,
Hades.
That's an interesting pronunciation. I mean, yeah. I can see that, though. It definitely checks out. Like, if there was an S in front, it would be Shades, right?
Yeah.
So,
you called yourself JD's, though. Was that just, that wasn't related to Hades?
No, that's what I'm called.
That's probably
that's
probably the non-Romanized version.
Yeah, JD's.
My bad. I didn't know that after all these years.
Well, in any case, the game Hades is an action roguelite indie RPG dungeon crawler where you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, and you are on a perpetual mission to escape hell. And I had already played this game before we even had decided it as a game. Well, I decided it as a game for the podcast. But this is a really awesome game. Had some really great art involved with it, as do most Supergiant games. When I was playing this through for the first time, I just thought immediately, man, I got to make my guys play this on the podcast. So, it's just filled with all sorts of epic action. The game ramps up in difficulty as you progress. It's a roguelite, so you can expect to be dying a lot. There's traps, there's fighting, there's weapon styles, weapon flavors. You've basically got yourself just a stacked game.
You were playing it in early access, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask, how long was it there?
So yeah, it was in early access for probably, I want to say, at least 6 months before the full version came out. That's a good point. You guys have kept asking about how the early access compared to the full 1.0 release, and to be honest, it's a pretty short answer. It's almost the exact same game. You were short like a couple trinkets, short a couple items, but otherwise basically the same game up to the very end. There was just no way to progress the game once you beat the final boss. You would just be in a perpetual cycle of doing that, and it was basically announced that there was more coming later in the 1.0. So I saw that a couple times, and I just basically stopped playing the game until we all resumed it, and we're playing it together. So
that's interesting. I'd like to know, if something really sticks out to you and it's like, that was different than early access. Because I saw a lot of people actually playing this game in early access, surprisingly. So the hype was there.
It's cool, and it wasn't like a waste of time to be playing in early access either, because you still, all of the resources that you have to collect, the collectibles and unlockables in this game are insane. Every single run just fills you with a sense of completion, because you're just one step closer to unlocking some awesome new character interaction or resources or even decor pieces. Some of which actually influence the events of the game.
Okay, so Hades roguelite game, how does this compare to any other roguelite game that people have played? Enter the Gungeon, Risk of Rain, Binding of Isaac, all of those. What's special about Hades?
Okay. what's special about Hades is that it's got this awesome mythology flair to it. It's all based on real mythology, real characters. No actors were used. Just you've got a real sense of history.
The real
coming
gods.
From this.
The real gods are voicing.
Yeah, they got Dionysus to come in and voice himself.
He nailed his lines.
I'm surprised he had time considering all the partying.
Right? Yeah, he's a busy guy.
He brings the party with him.
Yeah, that's
a
true.
good point.
Every time you talk to him, there's laughter and jovial, gatherings behind him. Yeah, so I imagine that there's a party happening while he's recording his lines.
So yeah, it all just all the elements of the game kind of build off of the classical mythology. You unlock some Zeus powers, then you're just going to be shooting lightning all over the place. Dionysus, the big man himself, he if you unlock his abilities and aspects to your weapons, then he will give you like this sort of hangover damage over time sort of thing that can cause all sorts of other nasty effects on your enemies. And really, you can just kind of focus on building whatever you want in this game. And there's just so many cool weapon combos and build combos and even duos between other gods, which give you these buffs that just make you become just so overpowered. So you can just kind of build the perfect character and just keep replicating the perfect run that you had once and just snowball through the game. Or you could just switch it up and try to... There's so many incentives, too, to switch up your builds and try everything else. Including, I think, endgame completion. Right, Cole?
Yeah, there's so many different... like, each run, for me, was a mental struggle between, do I want short-term game? Like, do I want this run to be a good run and I want to succeed? Or do I want long-term game that I'm not going to see this run, but as soon as I die or win, once I get back, I can start investing into becoming stronger in the future or advancing the plot. All kinds of different things like that you think about besides just your build and everything that's going on in your run.
So is there... do you guys feel that you had one specific build that just was your favorite thing that you could rely upon?
I'm someone who's always working towards those all the check marks, I want everything done. So anytime I saw the prophecies, the quest list, they would keep track of every boon, every ability that you've ever tried out once. And it would show you when you were picking them, if you had ever done it before. And if I saw that on there, like I'd never used it, I would just go for that right away. So I was always doing something totally different, just adapting to whatever build I had going on at the time. I don't know if I found specific success with anything more than anything else, but I can tell you a few that I didn't like that much, but I'll save it.
Okay. Yeah, and so I guess, like, to answer your question earlier, that was probably my one favorite aspect of the game, is that the builds just felt so solid, and they all just tied in so perfectly well to the lore behind each of the characters that give you these power-ups. Yeah,
it was pretty cool, because every time you talk to them, sometimes you would have a bunch of boons from one god, like Artemis or Ares, and then you'd go get a boon from a different god, and they would bring the other one with them and have a conversation, like 2-on-1 with you, and then they'd offer you a duo boon that was the powers of both of them. So there was some really interesting interactions you'd get based on just whatever you were already picking at the time.
Some of them so powerful too, just disproportionately stronger than the other, and some of them were duds. Personally, I found myself just not enjoying much about Athena's buffs, which is ironic because she's also the first choice that they offer you. And,
Athena, huh?
Yeah.
I think someone here had Athena boons as a staple.
Mm-hmm. Really?
A core part of their build.
Yeah.
I won't say who, though.
50-50 guess on that one.
Yeah, well, whatever one you're going to guess is going to be wrong.
Well, okay. So, do you want me to say what your staple Athena item was? your boon or what? Because no. I'll be honest. That's also my favorite from hers.
Yeah, it's the best. It is the best one.
Let's all say it on three.
Three,
3, 2,
two,
1. The dash.
boon.
Yay!
Yeah, her dash boon. I found it to be integral
Yeah.
because
Honestly,
it just seemed
it's
to make
the best.
everything far easier. Where it repels, you could dash right through attacks. We should probably explain what boons are, right? I mean, we haven't really.
Oh yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, boons are basically just power ups and different like. Yeah, I mean, power ups is the best word for it. I guess it just powers you up with special effects.
They augment your abilities. You get all these different abilities. You have your basic attack, your charged attack, and your dash and your cast and stuff like that. And you can get boons that sort of augment how they work and interact with the enemies and stuff like that. And it's very handy. It's very cool that there's a lot of there's a wide variety of boons that you can get that completely changes your play style. And there's many other aspects too that will completely change how you go into combat.
Yeah, and it's all like kind of randomly generated runs.
Yeah.
Like the halls of Tartarus that you start out in. It's just like an ever shifting labyrinth, just like it is in the lore. Where you can't expect to go down the same hall twice or anything because it's all just totally randomized. Even the boons that you get are randomized, so even if you take measures to ensure that you get boons from a certain character, you never really know what you're going to get, which just keeps things very interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's another reason I never try to go for like a build, because as much as you might seek out the same things, it almost feels like you're handicapping yourself to go for the same exact thing every time, because it's not going to work in every situation, and you're definitely not guaranteed to get it. The game will do everything in its power to not give you what you want, because that's just RNG, baby.
Yep, the desire sensor.
Compared to this game, it's time to come clean. All right, I'm not a big. I've realized I'm not a big roguelite fan in general. I think it's interesting getting sort of like permanent things, permanent augments or increases in your stats or whatever through dying to get farther for the next time. Like, it's kind of like Dark Souls-y in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, you only get to scrape away with just like a few improvements every single run that you take, just like in that classic Souls fashion.
Yeah, like you Dark Souls, I guess the comparison, I don't want to be that guy who compares everything to Dark Souls, but Dark Souls is like, you toil away against a boss fight and you die a lot, but you get farther and farther and closer to beating it each time. That's kind of how roguelites work in a way, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
But
yeah,
because I'm wondering, is it in a case like Hades, is it possible to beat the game on your very first run?
It's definitely possible, but it's tough. Because there was that. Probably everyone has that idea, right? Or is that just me going in first run? I'm like, I really want to see how far can I actually push this, even though I knew in the roguelite fashion, you're intended to die and go back and get powerful before you really go far. And I'm sure in a game like Hades too, with all these special interactions, there's probably some cool stuff that they say to you if you make it that far on your very first try as well.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah,
it's
and
stacked against you.
There must be hidden achievements. Something like that.
There's not that, but I'm sure there's some cool dialogue.
As far as roguelites go, this one, I guess there's more to keep a player engaged than any other roguelite I've played so far.
I think that's true.
Going on just in between runs. Usually in roguelites, you just go to some screen, buy upgrades, and then you're like, time to go time for another try. But in this one, you got a whole zone. You run around and talk to people, advance storylines. It always feels like you're making progress in between deaths, because there's always new dialogue. Like pretty much every single time you die, there's multiple people who have things to say.
Yeah, I can't believe how much dialogue there is in this game. Like,
It's actually insane how much
It's pretty
there is.
insane.
how many lines the voice actors would have to just sit through to make this seemingly endless buffet of dialogue options.
Yeah, when you run out of something, you just change one little thing, like bring a different weapon or start packing different boons if you see them, and suddenly everyone's going to start saying different shit to you. Even on your return, that you probably thought there was no more dialogue to be had from this character.
Yeah.
Right? And even when you buy like items, like I bought some sort of yarn item from the Pool of Karen, which is just like this little shop that you can buy items to help your run out. And I bought this one item, and I went into the Theseus boss fight, and he commented on that item I had, and he was like, "Hey, I remember that from my days back in Greece."
Whoa.
And so,
Yeah, that's
you get
cool,
all
'cause
sorts
I
of...
had never heard that one.
Yeah, because I knew they reacted to your weapon and what god you had featured exclusively for your boons and stuff like that. But I didn't know it was even extended to the well items and stuff. Those are temporary. They like run out after a certain amount of encounters. So it's
Yeah,
like,
totally.
That's crazy.
very rare interactions that they just have voice lines waiting around for.
I really like that a lot. Like it definitely drives your engagement up, because like in a game like Risk of Rain 2, we've all at least dabbled in that, and definitely the first one, right? And
Yep.
that's definitely a game where there isn't actually a meta progression. You don't get stronger after you die in a run. Your run is just over. There is no benefit in that game.
Other
and there's
than
not even
unlockables,
really,
I guess. Like,
Yeah, there's
you can maybe get some
unlockables.
different characters.
there's like artifacts, but those are more like heat in Risk of Rain.
Yeah,
They're not like, they don't make your character numerically stronger in any way. You just have to rely only on skill or setting the difficulty down. And really all there is in that game is like a tiny ending cutscene in the first game, and probably something similar in the second game. I just haven't played that since 1.0 there. But, Hades is everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
New stuff is constantly happening.
Yeah. When I think of roguelites that I played and enjoyed, I think the first one I thought of was Risk of Rain, and I was wondering why, because there's none of those elements that I do like in Hades. And I realized it's because, there's multiplayer in that game. I had a lot of fun playing with my buds. If that was a one single player game, I wouldn't have played it as much or had as fond of memories. Not to say it's bad, it's awesome. But I don't think
the multiplayer does add a whole nother level of engagement to it, I suppose.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be all desolate, There's no one.
Oh, yeah.
You feel antisocial when you're just in this ambient environment. There's just like music, and that's it. Nothing else is happening around you to actually keep you invested other than just your own motivation, and that's not really enough when you're doing the exact same repetitive thing over and over. I'm sure for most people.
Yep, that's what I was thinking of, roguelites, and I think this is probably the roguelite I've put the most time into, out of obligation and I guess out of fun too. I was having a good time, but I definitely wanted to see a lot more to be able to bring it to talk about it with you, with my buds, with my boys.
For sure. Yeah, and I definitely get what you're saying about roguelikes. Like, there's definitely, towards the end of my runs, even though I was first to start playing this game, again, I'm the last to finish it. Because none of the victories that I racked up during the early access actually counted towards the end, so I was basically starting again from square zero. Just having tons of issues with beating the boss at the very end, and it just cost me a lot of time, and I was even starting to get frustrated when I was losing runs, and that's just total roguelite exhaustion.
Yeah, because it's the same thing over and over.
Yeah, and it's
to a
just
degree.
like, and it's if you don't build properly, like sometimes you don't luck out and you just don't get a very good solid build, and then you just know that you're in bad shape to take on some of the same foes that you fight frequently. you know that you're not ready for a certain fight.
Well, it depends. For me, okay, I started pushing the higher heat where you can make everything more difficult by adding all the modifiers. And it was once I started really pushing there that I started to feel that, where, I would turn on the one where it says, oh, now you have to manually purge one of your boons at the end of each floor. And, that doesn't seem so bad. But then when the game's RNG says, we're only going to give you 1, maybe 2 on this whole floor, and then you have to get rid of one, then it starts to really feel like you can't pull something together. But I guess I thought in the base game, well, you could make anything work, but the game is half getting Zagreus stronger through that progression of mirror talents and weapon upgrades, and then the other half is you getting better as you keep playing and improving your reflexes and things like that.
That's true.
I don't think luck has too much to do with it, but it all depends just on how good you get.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, because it is two aspects. Like, you're improving your character, and then you're also improving yourself, and you're doing them both at the same time. So you can see some really good improvements, but also sometimes I feel like the game does just throw these almost unwinnable scenarios at you, where you can just be begging for a single item that's going to complete your whole build and then just not get it and then be totally screwed because you built yourself the wrong way and you're out of possible upgrades.
Yeah, I had some issues kind of similar to that, where it wasn't so much as that I was waiting for a specific thing, but it was that, it was on different weapons, you have different attacks, and I would like certain attacks. I would like to get, certain play styles, basically. Like the Daedalus hammers, they change. Like they can just change completely how you play.
Yeah.
Or how you tackle a weapon. And sometimes you'll get modifiers and stuff that you're just like, I don't fucking use, like, the spear special attack. Like, I don't really use that. I don't like that. I just would rather cast if I was gonna hit someone from far away. And sometimes it would be, all the boons I would be getting were for augmenting the special attack and getting it stronger. So it's like, great, I have to kind of play around the fact that the special is my strongest ability here and my most damage dealing thing. So it just felt like I was partly my fault for gimping myself, because I didn't want to use what, boons they were giving me. I didn't want to really use, what attacks they were augmenting, but at the same time, it was like, that seems like how it worked for a lot of the weapons and boons attached.
Yeah, it seems like the game wants to strong arm you into certain choices sometimes. Like, personally, I really liked the special on the spear. So I'm a big fan of anything special spear related, personally. But I guess that's just, everyone has different play styles. But, sometimes the game really strong arms you into picking a certain weapon or in a certain path. They offer bonuses to, use a certain weapon. Like, you go to your weapon selection room and one of your weapons is just glowing, and it's just going to give you mega bonuses if you use it. So they're kind of like dangling a treat in front of your face for just picking what the game randomly decides you to pick.
And I thought that was cool. I was into that. Yeah. I thought that was really cool because it's a nice reward to reach out of your comfort zone and try a different weapon, but never.
But then you use the gun.
Then you use a weapon you're not familiar with, and then you just waste your time. It's like, hey, you get 20% more darkness, which is used to upgrade your talent tree, basically. But you're not going to get far enough to really utilize it because it's a weapon that you don't know or you're not good with, So I just stopped kind of adapting to that for a while.
I was always taking, for probably like 50 runs into the game or more, whatever weapon had that buff on it, I went that. So that probably helped me get stronger faster and get used to the weapons. But definitely some of the weapons their moves didn't flow as well. Like the spear, I'm going to have to go with Jade on this one. I didn't like the special. But you can't link your basic attack and your special together fluidly. If you throw your special out with the default spear, you have to have it returned to you before you can do anything relevant again. but you take something like the sword or the gun, you can like combo your special and your attack together, and it just feels like it was meant to be that way, where there's never any downtime of not doing some sort of action, not applying some sort of damage, you know?
Yeah.
And so some weapons just didn't feel as good. You could get by with whatever, but it didn't feel the same with every weapon for sure.
I also felt like some weapons needed the Daedalus Hammer upgrades.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Like the...
I'm curious as to what you mean.
I don't...
Because, I disagree, but I guess I'm really...
I mean,
I'm
you're
hot-headed with this game.
Let's be clear here. You two specifically probably have had the best time, the easiest time with this game. Action.
Yeah, I had a
game.
pretty good, easy time with this game. But clearly that's not the universal.
Yeah, well, it is because it won the Game of the Year award for action game.
But does that really mean everybody had an easy time, or everyone just the game kind of rewards you even when you die, and people were into that?
I don't know. I don't know what that says.
I don't know either, but what do you mean when you say
The gun.
The gun, okay. What about the gun?
The
didn't work?
gun is bad, and I don't like the bow. I don't like the bow either. I didn't like either of those.
Whoa.
Yep.
Yeah, we've had. I think that not liking the bow is heresy, but to be fair, Jade has some controller issues that I've gotten to take a peek at, and I think that would really detriment a weapon where you have to aim, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but even
I'm
that
gonna chalk it up
aside-
to that. But I'm
No.
gonna chalk it up to that. So
Okay.
you explain whatever you want, and
You go ahead and chalk it up to that if that's what it takes to have you feel good about what
it does. It is what it would take.
Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't like the bow. Even disregarding I hated the attack of the bow a lot. I hated the attack of the bow. I hated being locked down to aim and have it charge forever. Oh my god! It just did that. See, it didn't feel good to me to be locked down, and so I felt like I had to use my special all the time. But then you shoot your special in a big fan in the main bow, and it's just like, or in the Zagreus aspect. I know you can get in different aspects that change. Each weapon has 4 different aspects that change certain aspects of the weapon itself.
The default one, the hidden one, and then just 2 regular ones.
Yeah, so with the bow, I felt like I had this cool run where I got the Daedalus Hammer for the bow that was, you didn't have the charge attack, I think. There's one that you just shot arrows at whoever was closest to you.
Yeah.
I like that. I was like, I wish I could just do this instead of charging arrows and or just having to default to my special. And I mean, the game is so action packed. There's so much going on. You have to be moving all the time that sometimes it's hard to get those shots. And then if you can't use your main attack, then you have to use your special attack. And it's just like, what if you didn't build your special attack? What if you mainly got attack based things? I don't know. I just didn't, certain weapons didn't click with me, and they were for sure the ranged weapons. I didn't like any of the ranged weapons, and it's even aside of the controller. All right, because there's aiming things in casts, and I didn't have any problems with casts.
Some of those bows were for sure for the special. Like if you wanted to use that, one of the, because I liked the special on it too, but it is a cone. It's a cone, which essentially it's like a shotgun blast. You need to get in melee range with the ranged weapon to make it useful at all, unless you picked like a different aspect, is kind of what I felt like it was designed for.
Yeah, I mean that's true, I suppose, and that's cool that you have both the ranged aspect and the close quarters aspect, but that just seemed like it didn't synergize well.
I would agree. It's fair to not slot in with a particular weapon or even a specific aspect, because you also have to unlock the aspects. It's not as free to just try whatever out. You have to beat the game like a few different times.
Yeah, a couple dozen
to even
times.
get to try them all out and unlock them. And it's fair to not mesh with anything. And I think it's especially fair. Daedalus hammers really can sometimes augment your weapon so much. I wish it was easier to get specific ones, like get like start off with one or something, because
Yeah,
it's true. Some weapons just feel better when you have a really specific enhancement, and it doesn't necessarily beat the game for you. Like, I don't think rapid firing your arrows really makes it any stronger, but it makes it play differently. It's more
Yeah,
like
that's
an
that's
aspect
the
that
thing
way.
is, yeah, that's what I'd like, it just felt slow as hell. It was kind of like if I could just run and gun like the gun, if I could just fire like the gun a couple shots and then move out of the way real fast, just to be dealing that constant damage per second, because that's what the goal in this game is, and that's what you talk about a lot too, is your APM. You got to be always applying something, and with the arrow you have to stop, and there's that little highlighted there's like you charge your arrow for a little bit just to get it to
And you
blink,
gotta
and you hit
time it.
critical hit. Yeah, there's like timing stuff. So if you
Yep.
don't get that in time, if someone attacks you and you don't get your arrow off, then you're just wasting time, and it just I don't know. So if
And
I
your
could have
finite
just
health, because you can only find so many heals.
Yep. So, even if you dodge out of the way, that's still a waste of damage too. And it's just like, I wish that if I could have just stopped, did something like the some Legolas shot with the bow and arrow, where I'm just like
The Legolas shot.
shooting a bunch of arrows, like
Oh.
why couldn't
Well,
I
if
do
you
that?
dashed, then it charges your shot up very quickly.
Yeah,
and you
I
can
mostly
just,
use dash shots with the bow because it was so much faster.
Yeah.
but weaker.
My big trick with the bow is, other than that like rapid fire shot that just makes the bow godly, you can basically just, there's another dataless enchantment where you basically get like every single hit of the bow of the special deals like an increased percentage of damage
Based on how many hit. Yeah, I got
based
that
on
one
how
too.
many hits, and that just makes enemies explode. So you just sneak up behind them and hit them with like all of your blasts of the special, and they just die instantly. That's been pretty much the strongest build I think I've ever seen personally in the game, other than some weird money and Hermes builds that I tried out.
Yeah, see, like the problem with that though to me is like if I'm just gonna be up there, then I should have just got a different weapon. If I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
I
close
would
and
agree.
personal, I would have just, you know what I mean? Like the bow to me seems like it should be something that's from far away. It just didn't. It never worked out at any of the times that I played with it. That I got something that I actually liked and synergized with, so I shelved it.
If you just went with the Chiron bow too, which again, you have to unlock it first, but
Oh, that
that
one's
shoots your
so
special and it just heat seeks the guy that you hit with your attack. So you won't miss with that. And then you can stay at range. And clearly, it's like you have to preemptively say to yourself, am I going to go an attack build or am I going to go a special build? And it would be easier to do a specific one with that weapon aspect. But then you also are at the mercy, once you get into the run, of getting any of the dataless hammer enhancements you want. And you can't even re-roll those like you could with boons with certain upgrades.
Well, there is a way to re-roll certain dataless enchantments, but that's all very late game. You're stuck with them for your entire run.
Yeah, I would
Until the very end.
would never count on that for anything.
Yeah.
It's randomized too. You basically
It's
swap
only-
one out, one random one that you have for two random ones.
Yep. And
it's risky.
it's worked out really good in my favor, really well in my favor, and also very bad.
Yeah, same with re-rolling on different boons. Like I remember being at the end and seeing Athena, and I was like, yes, I had 3 die saved up, and I was like, time to get my dash, and I ran up,
Oh
re-rolled it 2 times, and nothing.
no!
But I mean, that's
Even
just
the
like-
even the most unrare, like the common quality boon, is still so much better than anything else.
yeah, I love
for
dash
dashes.
a lot. Yeah.
My next favorite dash is probably the Poseidon dash, where
Yeah, I
you
like that
literally don't even need to like attack anymore. If you want, you could just do a full dash build. Like I've done that before, where bosses take extra damage from your knockback moves. They get ruptured and all sorts of stuff. Create explosions when they hit a wall,
Yeah.
and then just like I've literally just done dash builds before, and that's what's so cool. You can just take any single aspect of it and just totally min-max that one stat and come out of the game victorious,
there's something to be said about how this game is designed in such a way that how many different aspects, how many different gods are there? There's like
7 or 8
7,
that
I
give you
wanna say.
boons.
yeah, and it's insane how they all have these crazy synergies where you could get 2 random ass gods and find that their boons and stuff interact so well, for the most part. And it's just really, really cool how you can just build around stuff that you've never got before, and it's just all random. And sometimes it just, turns into this super cool build that you're like, I just kind of fell into this, but this is fucking awesome. Like
Right?
That's really interesting.
That's how I discovered my favorite boon combo, which was Demeter and Zeus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where they shatter, they have that cool ass like effect where, especially on bosses, like the game just kind of slows down for a second and the boss just explodes and dies when they hit 15% HP.
Yeah,
And
that was the last one I ever
my
saw.
mind was blown. Oh, really?
I was literally, thanks to the RNG of the game, I was trying to see every boon at least once. I went like 5, 6, 7 runs, probably even more, specifically with everything tailored to giving me more Demeter boons that were rarer, because that's her legendary boon, is the shatter at like a percent HP. And the game wouldn't give it to me. If you want an idea of how RNG works and trying to go for a build, the game would not give me that one boon, even though it was the only thing I wanted the whole run. With rerolls, her keepsake that gives you higher rarity on stuff, specifically seeking them out.
Wow.
You can't rely on the same thing every time, and the game definitely really wanted me to know that.
I came to appreciate that a lot as I was playing, especially later in the game. I was just having a lot more fun building different things. I was using pretty much the same couple weapons, but just, changing the attacks and the different applications of skills and boons. It was really fun.
Yeah, what became my favorite thing as the game progressed is unlocking those rare weapon aspects.
The hidden weapon aspects are awesome, and I'm
Holy
sad to say that
smokes.
the first one that I got, the spear, I think we all got the spear first, so I don't
Yeah.
know if that's random or not. But that one's like my least favorite because it
Exactly.
it
yeah.
penalizes you for some reason, even though I don't think the benefit it gives is very good. It's just cool.
It's like a lifesteal version of the spear that, like, there's a similar build for the sword where your health is limited, but then every single chop you get back like 3 HP, and you will chop so fast and you'll just get HP back so quickly that it doesn't even matter that you're on lower HP. On the spear, the other hand, you basically, you got to get the Daedalus hammer, and you have to upgrade that spear to make it so it's quicker to charge up, or you're going to be just getting chunked for big amounts of damage. And I made it to the final boss like so many times on like heat 5 with that spear, only to die and just never even complete the game with it. So, but yeah, how many did you end up unlocking, Jade?
Of the hidden ones?
Yeah.
Just the spear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you just had to pour enough upgrades into them and then get some weird dialogue from someone.
From Achilles.
I have some stuff to say about that because I went
for sure.
seeking the shield was the last one. I ended up getting them all. I ran I ran through the game 5 to 10 times with just the shield, looking for, because I didn't look anything up about this game to know where anything was, and I couldn't unlock this aspect, and I didn't know what the requirements were, and then I just got it. Just randomly, I got it from the same person I had talked to so many times.
Wow. It was, you have to talk to Chaos to get that one.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's a lot to be said, I think, about how the game doles out dialogue to you, like, one at a time, but...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you can't see multiple lines of dialogue. You have to go.
Yeah, you can only get one, like, per run, I think. Any extra time you talk to this same character in a run, like a god with a boon or, chaos, you won't get new dialogue. So there's like a priority system going on there. I don't want to get super into that, but for the weapon aspects, that was really annoying because if you don't try out a weapon too much, and maybe you would like the hidden aspect more because they're very different, it's not a guarantee you're even going to unlock it, because even if you met all the requirements, some character just didn't give it to you. But anyway, the cool stuff about them. Go on, Kyle.
Yeah, so they're epic. They're just so cool compared. They just take the move set of the whatever weapon you have, and they just take a total twist on that. Some kind of follow suit. Like the shield was just basically a really beefed up, heavy version of the other shield that you had. That also, like, you could load all of your casts into your shield dash, and they would all detonate at once, however many you load on, as soon as you end your dash.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I liked that.
And that was the aspect of Beowulf. And
Oh yeah,
I love
that was cool. I noticed that too. That the spear that I unlocked was like, that's not a god of Greece. That's not a Greek mythology.
Yeah.
The bow becomes the aspect of Rama, which is like from Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The sword is the aspect of Arthur.
King Arthur.
Which is
King
Arthur.
Cool.
And he's got a very like Arthur ability set. Like his special is literally called Holy Land, where all of the projectiles are just slowed in this area around your slam.
And you take reduced damage.
Big attacks. And you get big attack damage buff, I think.
Wow.
So it's just a cool, and the sword has just the biggest, meatiest chops I've ever seen.
It's so much, it's like a great sword compared to the regular one. It's like a long sword. It's insanity.
Yeah. And the shield is like a great shield, just heavier slams of every single attack and just more options overall. Very
and the
powerful.
other ones.
Yeah, the Gilgamesh hands.
Gilgamesh gloves.
I
really liked those because I thought the gloves were just fast and fun. So Gilgamesh was really cool, and you could put like a dot on people that would improve how much damage you did to them while it was ticking, but they'd also hurt you more, so you had to be careful. But then it would just detonate for like hundreds of damage.
And then guess what? Guess which one I never unlocked?
Yeah, the gun.
The gun.
The gun was...
I can't even imagine what that would be. I'm guessing some Egyptian aspect.
You want to guess? Okay, you're guessing like a Ra or something?
Maybe aspect of Ra. Yeah.
Okay. You got any guesses, Jade?
No.
It's kind of surprising. It's the aspect of Lucifer.
Whoa.
Which I think is cool, because Lucifer, I think, is a pretty cool deity to base anything off of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sadly, though, it still mostly functions like the gun that you're used to. But you still got to reload it. The difference is that instead of shooting bullets in a clip that all do static damage and you reload it, it's a laser that ramps up the longer you focus on something, but you still have to reload it. And then the bomb that you lob, it arcs, takes a while, blows up. This lands faster, and it's like a little tiny sun that radiates damage, and then if you hit it, it explodes around it. And that's really the differences.
That sounds honestly a lot nicer.
It's pretty neat, but something about the gun just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Compared to other weapons in the game.
For real. Like, yeah, when I found out that there were multiple like types of weapons, like they were coming out one by one in the early game or the early access version, and yeah, I was just like so excited to see what all of the weapons would be, but then when I saw the gun, I just knew right away I was just going to be so disappointed by it.
the adamant rail.
Yeah. God, there's got to be something better.
I want to say that this game seems to prioritize attack speed, which is kind of strange, because most of the buffs just seem like you... if you're putting something on one of your attacks, and you could choose any boon on, let's just say, your basic attack, you could put Dionysus Poison or Zeus Lightning Bolts or Poseidon Push, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Usually they give you a % modifier, which would be helpful, but then they also give you an effect, like Zeus will shoot a lightning bolt every single hit. And so it usually seems to favor a faster hitting weapon. Mm-hmm. And so if you get Ares has Doom, you just put it on them, and then it waits a second, and then it just pops for a bunch of damage. That's like for more slower weapons, I think.
Well, I personally used it in weapons that were really wide arcing and you could easily hit a bunch with, like the shield throw or the bow like fan attack.
Yeah,
So
that'll always work. It just seems to cater more to a weapon that would either widely apply it or rarely apply it, rather than the vast majority of other stuff, which is
yeah.
frequent application. And that's what the gun caters towards too, because it shoots so many bullets so fast. It seems almost specifically built for that playstyle, but then it still doesn't hold up. And I think if you were to take something like Doom on your main attack, you wouldn't really see a lot of gain from that, because you could do the same thing with a harder hitting weapon. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. Sort of like how with Dionysus, you would want something that could attack pretty fast because the buff will decay over time. So unless you're able, you want to apply it quickly and keep it up maxed out. So like a big, huge, slow swinging weapon like Arthur's sword would be terrible for Dionysus because you need frequent attacks to keep
put
that
it on
DOT
your bow
going.
main attack, you only get one stack every so often, but put it on the
that's
special.
That's a very depressing playthrough right there.
Yeah, suddenly it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Dionysus is interesting too because he his attack augment and stuff that give you hangover don't increase your damage either. Like all the other ones go like, ooh, this increases your attack by X%, and it gives you lightning strikes. But Dionysus, it just says, oh, it just lets you do this amount of damage per stack of hangover.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
yeah, I don't think Ares gives it either. I think Ares is just it just gives you Doom, and it doesn't give you a percentage.
So it seems like the dots, they don't.
It's balanced pretty well, but I still think the game caters to faster weapons because you always want to be on the move and you can apply stuff more easily.
Pretty much. Yeah, the faster attacking the weapon, the more, I mean, yeah, it's just going to be better overall because even with stuff like Aphrodite that just does huge, big hits of damage and leaves the opponent weak, then, you know, even something that shot fast would be just as good as something that shot slowly because it would just have such a big damage buff and all those extra hits would really, you know, multiply your returns from it.
Yeah, that's probably true as well. And, you know, of course there are certain ways you can go. Like, I know with Ares Doom, there's something where if you keep reapplying it really fast, it does increase the damage, but I don't think... You have to luck out with that. You have to be built for it. You have to want it.
I got a quick aside about that. One of my favorite builds actually used that exact tactic.
Yeah, no doubt it's good.
Yeah, I use the Rama build where you use that upgraded bow, and you know the special of that where you just shoot like a machine gun fire of specials all at one enemy that bounce to a bunch of different enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically, I would just have the stacking buff and the delay buff that just really increases the specials damage. So I would just sit there and load them up with just a million shots with that thing, and then let one giant proc of that doom damage kill the enemy in basically one hit.
Yeah,
and that was
good.
like my favorite build in the whole game.
That was your favorite?
Probably, yeah. I have to say that's got to be my favorite.
Yeah, I don't think that ever came together for me, but it does feel good when the cards actually fall in place. Everything comes together. It doesn't always happen, though.
I think I killed Hades in about like a minute or two. Just so quickly.
I wish I could have seen all this shit, you know, in action, but, you know, you have to play the game a lot to see all these different combinations of things.
Yeah.
And you have to do specific things to unlock certain things. Like, I'm kind of bummed out I missed those weapon aspects, but, like, you know, I played the game for 30 hours and still just saw one, so it's like, how much longer would I have to play? You know, how much time is someone going to put into running the same thing? I mean, they do, to be fair, they do a lot to mix things up, to make each run interesting, and there's dialogue, like we've said before, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, you're killing the same guys, you're killing the same enemies. Runs are pretty short on the average. They're like half an hour, roughly. So it's not like a big time investment, but, you know, after 2 or 3 runs in a row, I'm kind of I always got a little fatigued.
Yep, totally. Roguelike fatigue.
Yeah. So I just, I wish I could have unlocked those weapons, but what was I to do?
It really does take a long time because the amount of hours I've put in, I don't know. I'm going to guess like 80. I don't know. And probably about the same amount of runs, like 70, 80 runs. And still stuff is like taking forever. I just unlocked a feature in the game called Companions after 60 runs. Like it takes so long for the game to give you certain things, like unless you know about them or luck into them. There are core features of the game that are just secreted away that they expect you to play forever to ever even see them. And now that I have companions, the only reason I knew that they probably existed is because you can look at your old runs in that room, and it says like all the stuff you had equipped when your run ended, and one of them was companions, and it said redacted every time because I didn't have one. There was an achievement for it, but it still took over 60, 70 hours of playing the same thing over and over to just be given one. And now I don't even remember to use them because it's been so much gameplay of the same thing that I never remember.
That's exactly my experience. Like, how can you even know? And then how can you even know how to get them, first off? Second off, it's such a late game thing that I've been so used to my runs that I don't even remember to use them, despite them being very good.
Yeah.
I just don't even remember to use them because I'm so used to standard runs, having to do it all myself, not having a companion. But
it's really strange.
Yeah, like certain things, and even the weapon aspects, like no one tells you how to unlock these, really. Like it's pretty much just guessing or looking stuff up, thankfully. Or, like in my case, I just had so many playthroughs by the end that I just unlocked all of them naturally from just standard upgrades and whatnot. But yeah, it takes a lot to get through the game. And basically, my when I started off playing this game, I just had like such a great time with all the runs and enjoying the mechanics. But by the end of it, I was just like kind of desperately like running through each time, like how fast can I clear Hades, because I'm trying to unlock all this content, and it just was taking so long. So basically, my desire for the content in the game between runs was just what was keeping me going ultimately.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like they had all this feedback from the early access, I'm sure, but it's designed this way. I think the big hang up is that they have probably almost too much dialogue in the game, and some of it must take priority over other ones, and that's why you don't get it, because I know for a fact, getting that shield was from Chaos now that I actually have it, but I definitely for sure talked to them like 3 or 4 times in my pursuit, but there was like a quest I was doing that I was in the middle of that involved them, so that every time they would just advance this little plot line that didn't give me anything in particular, and then once it was over, they finally relented. And every single NPC in the game is kind of like that. Like, Mother Nyx, the very first character, I said, wait, because you have the nectar, and that builds your relationships, and I funneled all of the nectar to Nyx because I thought maybe she would give me something cool. I didn't know how the system worked. And then it just like stops. It gets locked. You can't progress it anymore.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being one of the very last ones I ever finished, even though it was the first one I started, because the game just had other things it wanted to make me do first before her quest ever showed up, before I could even complete it. All this stuff competing with each other for your attention. They really do expect you to play this game forever to see everything.
For an eternity.
That's like a cool thing to keep you hooked, but for getting just basic combat things and basic gameplay things, it seems a little much, like to see the weapons and to get all the upgrades and everything for the different aspects, like that costs a lot of Titan blood. You got to be, I think if you beat I'm not 100% sure on how the Titan blood works. You're limited to that at first until you beat Hades and unlock the what's that called? The little contract,
the Pact of Punishment.
Yeah, you can't get more than just the amount you get for killing the 2 bosses with each weapon for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
One of them being Hades, so you could end up with just 6 and be stuck there and not be able to beat Hades.
So you can't unlock all the aspects with that initially. So you have to do it on harder heats and stuff. And like getting to Hades is a lot. It's hard for a guy like me. I had a real tough time at first getting there. I mean, I've talked about my experience with the game a little bit with you guys. Mm-hmm. At first, it's kind of like a roller coaster a little bit. At first, I was having a lot of fun. I was really really digging it, and like checking like the action. Holy shit, it felt so good right away. It just felt so clean. But as time went on, and I started progressing farther and hitting the same roadblocks over and over and over again. That's the descent, the downward spiral. And I like looked in my administrative chamber, and you can see like 10 or 15 runs in a row. It was like Theseus and Asterius or whatever.
Oh, God.
Killed by them, killed by them, killed by them, killed by them, killed by Hades, killed by Hades, killed by Theseus. Like over and over. And that's when I was like, I don't want to fucking play this anymore. Like I was getting... My desire to play was at an all-time low. But once you know, and there was like, at that point in the game where I was at personally, I wasn't getting anything else to unlock anything. I wasn't getting Titan Bloods to unlock anything. I was just getting like darkness. I wasn't getting any diamonds. I wasn't getting any boss drops. I was just getting darkness, and it felt like I was not making any progress at all. There wasn't a lot of incentive for me to play too, because the story wasn't picking up at that point either. There was nothing really interesting. It was just like, I want to escape. I want to see my mom. And then I would die 15 times in a row, and then he would just go, I still really want to escape. And that was like the story. And you know, talking to the characters and stuff is one thing, but you know, finally when I beat Hades, then I started going back up. And then they unlocked the Pact of Punishment. And I was like hooked. I was back in. I was like, okay, I wish that they kind of had something similar to this to start with. It felt like maybe the first run was the tutorial almost of the game, the first playthrough to beat Hades. Win. Yeah, the first win is like when things open up. But Jesus, that was a lot for a guy like me. I think I beat Hades on my 30 runs, was it? Something like that.
Oh, okay.
And it was just like, just a big dry spell where I didn't want to play at all. And then when I finally pushed myself to at least beat Hades, and I thought that would be like the end of the game, you know? And then the post game would come after that, and I would be like, okay, whatever, I beat it, I can talk about it. But no, that's when things got interesting to me, was after you beat them once, and then they start dangling some story things in front of your eyes. And there's a lot even more incentive for me to keep playing, at least at that point. And I certainly had a lot more fun playing after that.
Yeah, I remember it did take me quite a few tries to beat Hades myself. Like, it's a total slog, and you get major bonuses for actually beating him too. So, especially like Titan's Blood and everything.
Yeah. So
it makes your future runs easier, and it's just a huge filter.
Yeah, and there was some cool things that are cool conceptually, but maybe not the most fun if you're already struggling with the game. Trying to get to Hades, and then like you're killing the first boss Meg like 100 times. It's so fucking easy, like whatever, you know. But then all of a sudden she starts throwing her sisters in the mix. Things get ramped. Then it's like, oh shit, now I'm getting killed from this, you know. and then you're like, oh cool, now I'm only making it to the first floor. And then you get to the to the bone hydra, and that ramps up in difficulty as well. There's different augments to their abilities too, and it's just like, it just seemed like there was a lot of things standing in your way. Like, even if you get only to Theseus and Asterius, even if you get to them consistently and die like I was doing, then all of a sudden I started meeting these harder challenges, earlier in my runs, and I'd be in a even worse state going up to those two to try and beat them. So it was like, you know, it's cool. Like, I thought it was cool. I was like, okay, they're spicing things up a little bit, but it's also just, you know, harder to deal with. But yeah, eventually you start stomping them again, and you know, you could feel that progress too. But, and yeah, that was something else super rewarding for me, was when I was able to kill Theseus and Asterius with ease, like multiple times, and then start killing Hades with ease. And then I was like, well, I am actually getting better. I am making progress. It only took me 30 fucking runs to feel anything. Like, you know.
Which is a lot of hours of investment.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours to feel
but then it clicks.
Yeah, it took me that long for it to click for me.
Yeah, there. To be fair, there's an option in the settings. I'm pretty sure it's just a toggle. You can turn it on and off. It's called God mode, I think. I don't really know what it does, but I was told it makes the game progression speed up, or it makes it a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
I understand there's like a mental barrier there where you say, I'm turning on easy mode, I'm removing part of the challenge that does give you that feeling like I am getting better.
Yeah, like,
so it's a struggle between being frustrated and giving up that satisfaction of actually passing.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, after I went into Crosscode and switched that puzzle thing last game, I wasn't about to buckle this time. So I stayed strong and just bashed my head against the wall until it broke.
I am sorry you had that experience.
Yeah.
But I guess it's telling of what the beginning of the game can be like, because, you know, in retrospect, they don't really give you too much to work with, huh?
Mm-mm.
No.
All that stuff seems to unlock like after you beat Hades the first time, and then it starts to be a lot more engaging to actually be upgrading your weapons and stuff like that.
And the game does only get technically harder from that point on anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it is expected to beat it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, especially when they start adding heats and you just start trying to get more resources, so you're cranking the heat up on yourself without anyone even prodding you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're just not beating Hades anymore. And you're like, what happened? Then you start cranking the Pact of Punishment down, and you're still losing to Hades because you're mind broken.
Yep. Yeah, the Pact of Punishment allows you to augment the floors and your runs to make it more difficult, and in doing so you gain something called heat, which allows you to get boss drops again, I guess. Which are only, you know, they're specific to those bosses. They drop specific things. So you need to start cranking the heat up, and there's things like, oh, enemies do more damage, enemies have more health, there's more enemies. And then there's also
9 minutes to complete.
Yeah. And then there's cool ones like that change how boss fights go down too, which is cool. It's like extreme measures when all of a sudden you're fighting the 3 sisters at one time, and you know, the Bone Hydra one. Like, there's some cool stuff.
That one's awesome.
Yeah, there's really good ones, but you know, it increases your heat and makes it more challenging, and it was really fun playing with those. I had a lot of fun seeing how far I could be getting, and I knew that I was actually it felt more like I was making progress doing that than dying to Theseus and Asterius 10 times in a row. Which I guess is a feat. It's, you know, because you see the feedback loop, you actually get to see like, oh, now I have more Titan blood to upgrade a weapon, rather than just darkness that, you know, I had my skills maxed out already. This is interesting.
Yeah. And one of my like favorite aspects of the game, and I think the game is like so well written because it even factors in the fact that you have to just keep replaying the same like game and levels over and over into the whole overarching story and like the legend that would pretty much arise from the events of this game.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, as far as mythology is concerned, like this thing sort of happens in so many different religions, you know, like in Christianity, there's like the death and rebirth cycle of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And in, you know, Egyptian mythology, it's the death and rebirth of Horus that leads to the rising and the setting sun. And then even now, this is basically the Greek retelling of that, like, constant death and rebirth cycle. So it's just an awesome way to incorporate some of the mythology surrounding Zagreus into so it sounds like someone basically read a bunch of Greek mythology and was like, oh my gosh, this would make an awesome like roguelite game.
What if I did that?
This would make an awesome roguelite dating sim.
Yeah. No, I think that, like, the story aspect and the characters and just the fact that it all ties into the Greek mythology was super cool. It was really interesting. And towards the end of the game, I certainly had a lot more fun learning about everyone a little more and this crazy struggle between the Olympians and Hades. Just the weird family dynamic that they have, and it was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I knew a lot about the mythology going into this. Like, I knew a lot about Persephone. I did not know a lot about Zagreus, that's for sure. He was all totally under my radar, but Persephone is, very interesting figure in Greek mythology. And Demeter, I knew that Demeter was Persephone's mom just from having a basic knowledge of Greek mythology. And so yeah, certain things would be revealed in the game, and I was just so psyched when I knew it was coming, but I was still just super excited to, unveil all of that information too. Yeah, it's just really cool. Like, I wonder what I would have been like if I could have played this game back when I was in my Greek mythology phase back in like elementary school. I would have been mind blown. Well, my mind was still blown by the game, but
I really do like all of the incorporations. Like, I think you asked once if you ever see Daedalus running around, because they mentioned he's the one who's manipulating Tartarus, making it constantly shift and change. And it's his hammers that you find for your weapons. And I don't believe that you see them personally, but it's just a way to is that ludonarrative? They're bringing in the mythology and they're telling it in a way to connect it with the actual mechanics of the game in a way that's pretty believable, and especially so because you know that lore
for real. And yeah, like especially Zagreus just being like trapped in the underworld. And then here's my sort of interpretation, like when you beat Hades and you get to go visit Persephone for what seems like just a little bit. Now, my theory is that he's up there for an entire human lifespan, and he just like withers away with mortal age and dies and ends up right back in Hades. Because everyone's talking about events going on down there that, take place over eons. Like at one point, Thanatos says to like Sisyphus, I'll be back in another couple of eons to check on you. And I feel like that, as you're just going through the runs of Hades, actual like eternities and like really long periods of time are like passing by.
I guess it would make sense. Yeah, because the gods' perception of time must be far different.
Yeah. And then when Zagreus crosses through that boundary, he's just living like a mortal. He's like tied to the mortal plane, so he dies and ages and withers away like a normal mortal would. And that's why he can only stay for so long.
The dude, Hypnos, always says, oh shit, looks like you died of natural causes again up there.
Yep.
It's like, okay. Yeah, so that's cool.
Interestingly, how many, beating the game and beating your father Hades so many times gets you further into the ending, but past that, have you guys completed many runs? Because they give you like a joke as to how Zagreus dies every single time after that, and it gets more and more ridiculous with each time that you do it. Like the first time, I think it's you go up, you water some flowers, and you die.
Yep.
But other times it's like, oh, you were in a pitch black room and you saw some red liquid and you decided to take a dip, and like that's what the death screen looks like. So he just went for a swim and just went right back to the underworld. Got bit by a snake, just fell over. All these weird things that wouldn't even normally kill a person too, and they just happen to you, and that's the reason that they say you die and go back.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never got a chance to play much more after actually beating the game. I think only like one or two runs, but it was different. There was definitely a different death animation every time.
Yeah, it
And
takes itself
that was
seriously
fun.
at first, but then it's like, I can't
Yeah.
believe how many of them they have written too. So many. But they're like, they know that you must be exhausted from going through the game so much, and then the narrator is like actively, Zagreus saw a cockroach and got scared and died.
Okay, what
That's
is
so good.
up with the narrator? I thought that there was going to be something going on with the narrator. Who is the
Oh
narrator?
yeah.
That almost seems like a weird carryover from their older games.
Because Zagreus even responds to the narrator. He
I have a hypothesis.
yeah.
So you can get this unlock. You can unlock this statue if you pay enough for it, and it's just like statue of a Greek storyteller, whose name is yet to be known. But that's Homer.
Oh, okay.
The bust is of Homer, the guy who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. And when they built the statue of him, they didn't even know who he was. Like they mentioned, never heard of him. Like even though he's like the reason that so much Greek mythology is known nowadays, because his works actually survived. And that's kind of what all of this is too. This is just another retelling of like some of the like oldest and most classic tales that the earth has ever recorded. So people like, this is just like another interpretation of the events that are like lost in translation, and pretty much people taking images and pictures depicted from like statues and carvings and also some of Homer's works, and then just splicing them together into like the Greek mythology omnibus. But yeah, so I think the narrator is Homer. That would just make a perfect segue, and they definitely tip their hat towards Homer before too, and like, yeah, he's basically one of the original storytellers of this sort of thing as well. So that's my personal hypothesis on who the narrator is.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I definitely wouldn't have known that.
Because, and another thing, Homer also frequently wrote about mortals and people venturing into Hades' realm and coming back, like Orpheus. Like, I don't know how much you guys know about the story of Orpheus, but it's like kind of he was the original guy to like venture down, and you can actually interact with this character and help him out and get him to be reunited with Eurydice. And that was like a very sad story. And another character who came in, and they even mention all of the people who ventured into Hades and returned alive, like Orpheus, Hercules, Odysseus. It's all captured in tales written by Homer, so it also makes perfect sense that he would be talking about this story of Zagreus as well.
I really like that.
Yeah, there's plenty of characters even that don't appear or have a speaking role or anything that are mentioned like that. So I totally buy into it.
Yeah, like Daedalus, he mentioned,
Daedalus
integral
is
to the
mentioned.
game, but you never actually get to meet him.
They do bring up Hercules a few different times, especially I think they talk about him he could have been a stand-in for Theseus.
Yeah. Zagreus is like, oh, you couldn't even get Hercules here. You have to have this guy.
I think with Medusa they mentioned something about like Zagreus says, like, if I ever find the guy who like put you down here or whatever, and that person is another Greek hero named Perseus, who's kind of in the same bracket as like Hercules and Patroclus
and Achilles.
Yeah,
Great wealth of characters and mythos to draw from for this game, and they did a really good job at making sure to not miss any of them.
I think it's so funny too, the way that they tied in like pomegranates into the game.
Oh,
And
what's that all about?
Pomegranates are very unique to Persephone in Greek mythology, because there's a tale like in part of like all the stuff about Hades like capturing Persephone and ripping her away from Olympus. That's all like pre-written about ideas that were just directly implemented into the game. And basically with Persephone, they say that Hades fed her a piece of pomegranate that was grown in the underworld so therefore she could not ever return to the land of the living.
Because she partook of the fruit of the underworld.
Yeah, this underworld fruit, the pomegranate. And that's just kind of the main, like, buffing item in the game. The invincible star from Mario of the game.
The superstar.
The super mushroom from Mario.
The supersonic. The Chaos Emeralds.
I don't know if the pomegranates are that integral to the gameplay, but...
you need to have those
factor.
upgrades.
Yeah, you upgrade with them. Those palms of power.
It's nice, yeah. I didn't know that about the... I wondered what was up with the pomegranates, because big time with Persephone. I think that's what her keepsake even is, like a pomegranate something or other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, they know, whoever made this...
They know what they're doing.
Definitely did their research. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. But, yeah, I was just having such a fun time, like, unlocking all the little interactions, like Megara, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She's the same Meg from Hades, the Disney film.
Hercules, the Disney film.
Hercules. Yeah, sorry, not Hades.
That's what we're talking about.
Hades is what we're talking about.
Hades is in that.
Hades is in that, yeah. He's a pretty integral character. Yeah. James Woods.
Oh, you mean from Kingdom Hearts, not Hercules.
Yeah. Hades from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, it's the same Meg. I didn't piece that together until a little while ago, actually. I didn't think about that too hard. But to be fair, they're very different from Disney movie to this, where she's actively killing you and whipping you and screaming at you and being mean to my boy Sisyphus.
Yeah, Sisyphus.
He's always trying to push Boldy up that seemingly endless hill, and then it rolls back down, and he's so chill about it.
Yeah, he's chill. I like him a lot.
Even though he was a fucking evil man.
Yeah, there was another guy, I guess, who didn't make the cut for this game, very similar to Sisyphus in Greek mythology. His name's Tantalus. And he's doomed to spend an eternity in this little pool of water, and he's like super thirsty and super hungry. And there's like all these like grapes and fruit hanging above him, but he can't quite reach them because he's, swimming, so he can't like stand on the water and reach up and grab some food.
Oh my god.
And whenever he tries to drink the water, it just like jumps away from his mouth.
That's evil. Mythology is evil.
Yeah. It's so bad. And oh my god, dude, the art in like the underworld realms, it seems like so cool. Exactly what I would picture of this like realm of the dead,
Mm-hmm.
The river Styx just like flowing through it, collecting all of the blood of all of the fallen souls of Earth.
Everything in the game worked so cohesively in the art direction standpoint. Like, the artwork of all the characters is insane. Like, it's so high quality. The menus and everything like is just clean. It's crisp. And then the music, whew.
Like, oh my god, dude, Patroclus's song, that was like one of my favorite.
The voice acting, except for Meg, it was really good too. Like, I liked all the voice acting except for Meg. I'm calling you out. Get a pop filter. Clear the saliva from your mouth before you record. Have some personality. Just don't talk in a monotonous whisper. Quit mumbling.
She did speak almost as if she just got done polishing off a cigarette right before she came on. But kind of in a good way, though.
Really? So you kind of were into it? I wasn't.
I kind of liked it,
I kind of like it, too, because it makes her very unique. Like, you have to imagine they had to do that on purpose, right?
I mean, yeah.
Otherwise, why does she sound so fucking weird and, like...
Yeah, it's like, swallow, please, swallow.
Yeah, she's like
spit,
slurping and shit, I think.
I think the way that Orpheus talks is so funny because IRL, in real life Greek mythology, Orpheus would just be like, super depressed after his shortcomings in his little story. So he's just like, that would be cool.
Oh, if only I had the capacity to feel that emotion, he said at one point. Like, he's so depressed, but he just goes on.
I thought it was really funny that his
Yeah.
voice is like that high in speaking, but then in the songs that he sings, you can totally tell it's someone
It's
else
that-
singing.
It's that Darren Korb, isn't it?
Yeah, Darren Korb is singing, and you could tell that his voice register is just lower. So I was like,
Completely different.
why couldn't he be just voicing? It'd be a cool cameo for him to just voice the character, you know?
Yeah, really weird that they chose to do that.
Orpheus has a speaking voice and a singing voice, apparently.
Yeah, and they're separate. They're separate voice
Completely
registers.
different people, and it's not even remotely like hidden.
Yeah. But, I mean, those are my only gripes, especially with Meg. Every time I'd hear Meg talk, I just would roll my eyes. I hated it. I don't
It
know.
actually seems better in later voice lines. Like if you listen to the stuff at the beginning, that was probably there in the early access before they recorded more.
Like, what, 70, 80 hours into the game that
Yeah,
starts
70,
picking
80
up?
hours in the game, I think that her voice starts to clear up a little bit.
She swallowed after all that shit.
I don't
No,
know what's up with it.
maybe
It does stand out.
It wasn't even her her saliva. It was just like the voice crackle too, where she'd go.
That seemed like intentional, like it was supposed to make her sound unsettling.
Yeah, I don't know. It was
But
it was a little too much. It was
It
like
sticks out like a sore thumb.
yeah. Everyone else like Zagreus. God damn, dude. Zagreus was such a good voice actor. I really liked Zagreus. Like the way I was reading the dialogue along while Zagreus would say it. And just the way his intonation and delivery of lines it like flows so naturally. Like he was a really, really good voice actor. And I think part of the reason I wanted to stick to the game and beat it all the way through was because I liked Zagreus so much that I wanted, like I didn't like him that much in the beginning, but I wanted to see his story through. Like it was a really weird moment that I had where I guess maybe I was linked. I was psychically linked with Zagreus when I was fighting. It was Hades, I think, towards one of my first times I got to Hades, and I was fighting so hard, and I felt like Zagreus, he got killed, and the exasperated like no. And it was like, fuck, dude, I feel really bad that I couldn't let you win. You know what I mean? I wanted to succeed because it felt like I was trying so hard to succeed, and therefore, obviously, Zagreus was trying so hard to get through. So there's like a kind of interesting. I liked Zagreus. He's him and Hades, man. I fucking love Hades.
They're really
Hades. I was never Hades, man. Between you and me, I never doubted you. I knew the whole time that you were a good dad. I fucking knew it. You made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But I was on your side from the very, very beginning. And I knew, like, Zagreus, he's a rebellious teenager. All right, he's just trying to instill, some responsibilities into him. Maybe a little bit of tough love. But Zagreus, how else are you going to deal with a guy like that?
Yeah, Hades is the classic overworked single parent.
Yeah, dude. Okay, and that's my note. You want to hear what my note was?
Yeah.
All right, ready? The end, between when you beat Hades and are trying to get the ending of the game, when you have to kill him, I think 10 times, and each time you're seeing new dialogue, that's Divorced Parent Simulator. Because
oh my god,
you go to Hades, and then he goes, maybe you should ask Persephone about that. And then you go up, you fight Hades, you go to Persephone, and you're like, okay, look, Dad says to talk to you about this. And then she's like, oh, well, maybe you should ask him about this. And then you're like going back and forth between them
that's true.
as a little delivery bird, and you're just relaying messages between the two of them for the second half. And interestingly enough, that was what I enjoyed, was learning it periodically learning the story through those interactions. But it felt so funny. I was just like a little 5-year-old kid, like, mom says for you to do this, and then the dad's all pissed off, and like, I don't know, it was just funny.
So good. Yeah, dude. I really liked Hades. Like, the backgrounds were so animated. Like, I sometimes would just sit there and watch him, like, judge all the souls coming out of the pool.
Yeah.
And there were some interesting interactions. Like, one time I saw him send someone back to life.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Yeah, he at one point said, I'll grant it just this once, and he just poofs him back into existence.
Wow, I knew Hades was good. No, I think one of the things I really liked was coming back after every time and hearing Hades snide, like he could come up with so many different snide remarks.
Oh
Yeah,
my
dude.
He's like,
gosh, right?
killed again, Nav. You know, like, and I'm like,
Dad, come on.
yeah, he's
Bro.
like, cut me some slack, dude. And he's always spitting on me when I'm down, and I liked it.
I
Yeah.
really like the buildup of the relationship between father and son, though, as you gradually gain his respect.
Yeah,
There's
that was
something
really good.
when you okay, I know this is like from atop my high horse, but when you actually put on the extreme measures to get the final Hades improved boss fight, there's a whole new song for that shit. He stops you when you get through the normal phases and he says, "All right, you like earned my respect. It's time to really be serious now." And if you still beat him, holy shit. I
Is
love
it crazy? Is it insane?
It's pretty crazy. I really like everything that goes into it. Cerberus gets an actual role in the game.
What?
They really go all out. The dynamic between those two is so great.
It really
You
is.
feel that build up, and I think that's one of the highlights of the game for me for sure.
Yeah.
I really wanted to
Holy
pour my heart out and
smokes.
say that.
I
I love
agree.
you, Hades and
That
Zag.
sounds epic.
Maybe I should try that
It's
out. At
it's
some point.
hard though, you know. It's in line with the rest of the game where they're really pushing you to the furthest that your potential ability can bring you to see some of these interactions.
Yeah,
you
I
have
mean,
you have to tough it out for a long time.
And what do you have to do to enable that?
This
It's a
is
passive
extreme
punishment.
measures. Yeah, you have to buy it.
Oh, extreme
You
measures.
have to buy it to unlock it. You have to crank it up to max, which means you have to successively go through the game, and each boss is going to be a harder version of itself, including
Oh,
Theseus
jeez.
and Asterius, who I am going to go on record and say are the hardest boss in the game, more than Hades by a lot for me. And
Yeah.
and then you still have to beat Hades, who on extreme measures is a lot harder. And that's at Heat 10. And an annoying thing is that Heat doesn't give you any additional rewards for going over whatever your
No.
current cap is. So it's
You got to work your way up to it.
it's almost pointless to do it unless you wanted to see
Theseus
something
and
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't even imagine Theseus and Asterius getting any stronger.
I'm not
than
gonna
they
I'm not
already
gonna
are
tell you what it
because,
is because it's fucked up. If you thought it was hard before,
Holy
it's fucked up.
I have to know now. I have
It's
to.
it's
Know.
very interesting, but it's not easy. It
Okay.
Asterius was the weak link before, but not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And Asterius, yeah, like the whole time, a boss with an totally invincible shield that is always pointing at you and will attack you while facing you while you can't damage him.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Asterius is just giving you a back massage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that fight's just so hard already. There's so many good runs, so many runs that would have worked on Hades just because of Theseus's shield. Just total run killer.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about just Elysium as an area.
Elysium, for sure.
The whole
Oh my
package.
I rack my brain wondering why that's the hardest. Everything escalates so much in that area.
Yeah.
Enemies deal so much damage.
Some of them have super
Everything.
armor, I think. Like, you can normally stagger people, but in this one, some of their attacks just ignore it and hit you anyway. Mm-hmm. And then it's the hardest boss at the end, so you really need every last drop of health you can get. It's fucked up. Trying to push harder heats, I keep dying there. Every single time I die in Elysium, or that's where I take by far the most damage.
All of the enemies work in synergy, I think, is the big
Oh my
thing with
gosh,
Elysium,
yeah.
because you have the soldier guys who they die and then their little soul pops out and you have to kill their little soul before it repossesses the body or whatever again. Then there's an enemy, the crystal, that provides immunity, invulnerability. That blue crystal, if it pops, it provides immortality, or you can't hit whatever enemy. So if that procs on those guys while their little spirit is trying to regenerate, then you have a whole new enemy to deal with. Then there's like guys, those little orbs that sit from far away and just launch a wave of butterflies. And there's the little chariots and the big chariots. And all these are all just, they put them in a pot and they go, all right, mix them all together. How hard can this encounter be? You know, and then there's the armored ones that you can't stagger,
Oh,
you're fucked, dude. Like, that area, I hate the shield guys.
Yeah, they're pretty annoying.
I hate them. I hate them the
anything
most.
with the shield is just the worst. They turn and face you, and they're invincible.
Yeah.
And can attack you while invincible.
I had some issues where I was even standing next to them, beside them, and it was still blocking my attacks. And I was like, I guess I gotta just be only behind them to hit them. But
Yeah, you got about 30 degrees of vulnerability on those guys.
30, make it 20 degrees.
A little sliver.
Yeah. No, that area is hell, and then you're met with Theseus and
It's hell.
Yeah.
Oh, you always get me.
That area is hell, dude.
You'd think that the further you get into the underworld, the harder it would be, but since you're climbing out, Elysium, where all the heroes are, is the most fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess Styx is pretty hard, but
Styx is hard, yeah.
The sewers of Styx.
Yeah,
that
that can be.
place
That's
is-
just so
it's
tough
kind of
too with the
frustrating
poison.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a cakewalk.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a cakewalk. And especially since you heal in every single chamber, it just can.
If you heal in
really
every
ramp
chamber.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I only found out about the fact that the mirror had multiple aspects probably no more than 15 runs ago out of my 60, 70, 80 total runs.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Yeah, that's a little something different. I never used that healing per chamber or encounter or whichever it is, because that gets confusing. I always liked the heal on darkness, because otherwise,
Me too.
you reach a point in the game where darkness is nearly useless.
Yep.
And you'd want to avoid it, but if you can heal from it, and it gives you max health. They give ways to incentivize that stuff, at least a little bit, even late into the game. So
Yeah, they do a
True.
good job
And
of
the
doing
fact
that.
that the market, you can still exchange that shadow for other really valuable resources sometimes.
and there's even more. I think when you get the true ending, they give you an NPC, and they're like, this guy gives you something that's literally useless. Do not buy this unless you just want to throw your stuff away. This is the end game sink, just to give you something to do. And that was probably in early access, right? Or no?
That was not in early access.
Okay, because
So
that's weird to me, because then there's more resource sinks that you get later. I reached the epilogue, which was also a massive slog to eventually even understand. I don't understand how you get it, which is weird. But once you beat that, I think that's a requirement for the shop to have even more shit that takes oh, do you have 200 keys lying around? Yeah, because now you need them suddenly for this thing that you can buy, which is
Wow.
just,
Oh
it's
my God,
cosmetic,
I've been
but it's
selling-
a massive sink for resources at the end of the game, and they have multiple of them.
holy, wow.
Very weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, some stuff already just from the house contractor felt like a total resource sink. You
It
can't
is.
get enough playthroughs. This game seriously feels like it has almost endless replayability.
They want you to play this game forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe that I've never played a game that wants you to beat the game 11 times before you can get the actual ending.
The
of
regular
game.
ending.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot more than what other games give you, like we were saying before.
Yeah. Roguelites.
Like the Risk of Rains and your Enter the Gungeons. They have one static thing that you see over and over if you manage to win. And this game gives you incentive to keep pushing. I mean, you can put in all those hours. It's just it's whether or not the value of those rewards is actually worth kind of incrementally changing gameplay, which is fun, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah. So the incremental thing, I don't know if I'm into that. How long it takes to unlock stuff in this game.
Yeah. They definitely make you work for it.
Had it not been for this obligation of the podcast, to be able to cover the game as well as I could, if I was just a regular guy, I think I would have stopped playing. I don't think I would. I was spurred on enough because there was nothing really hooking me into a story or any way for me to see significant upgrades in that middle chunk where it just felt like, oh, this is all the game is, that's, but there's totally a lot more. There's a lot more that spurred me forward to complete it, and want to complete it.
That's got to be why you realize that this isn't your type of genre, simply because I think it is almost unquestioning. Hades gives you a lot more incentive to push on than other roguelites. Because it's going to be the same thing over and over, no matter which one you play.
Yeah.
But at least here, you're seeing progression, you're seeing rewards.
Yeah, both in the story aspects.
And there's a story, which is almost never a thing.
Yeah, and the story is very interesting.
So we've reached the first game where someone isn't a huge fan.
Well,
is that what I'm hearing?
It's really hard for me to make a judgment on the game, I guess, because part of me can't stop thinking about my first 15, 16 hours playing it, and then the last half of playing it. Like, I think I can tell, like, all right, I'll be honest, like, I can tell that it's a really good game. I can tell that it's, like, obviously it was a Game of the Year contender, and I can see why. Like, I know that it's a great game, and I know the action is so solid and fluid. I don't know if I liked it. I liked it. Overall, I had See, yeah, it's so weird, because if I say I had a good time playing it, I don't know if I can say that completely without something in the back of my head going, oh, but what about all that struggle you had or whatever. Like, it wasn't fun for me struggling. It wasn't like a Dark Souls thing where it was like, yes, I'm struggling, but I feel accomplished or whatever. Until
do you even feel that in Dark Souls though?
Yeah, totally. Okay. I mean, not all the time, but at least in something like Dark Souls, if it's like to me, finally killing Hades after going through that 15 run dry spell of getting killed by Theseus and Asterius and Hades over and over again, and then oh my god, my heart dropping when I realized that there was a second phase to Hades. All I remember is that when I realized that there was a second phase, I was like, and that made me not want to play even more, because I finally, it felt like that Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga fight that I was doing for 2.5 hours or whatever.
Really?
Oh,
it was
gosh.
that? Are you serious?
Well, when I beat that and I didn't feel anything, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It felt like struggling for a long time. Except, I don't know. It's really hard to put into words for me.
There is a mindset, I think, to all of these different games where you're supposed to be entertained, but it comes down to you personally. If you're better at the game, you're probably going to have an easier time and enjoy it more, of course. So right off the bat, this is an action game. It's not very fast-paced, but it's pretty fast-paced. And if that's not up your alley, you're going to struggle more.
Yeah, and I think part of it... Remember how funny it was for me realizing that, I need way more health compared to what I was getting, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that was one of your tips. You were like, dude, learning about how much health you had usually when you fought Hades, like, I was like, I have like half that. And then when I die, for sure, when I die once, I'm going to have like half that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, even less. So that was like a big eye-opening thing and really helped me progress. But I guess, just that 15-run thing when it just felt it was not fun to play for me at that point. But then the second that I killed Hades and all this stuff started clicking together and I ran again and I killed him again, like no problem, then I was like, whoa, this is actually really fun. But when I sit here and now looking back, can I say that I had fun playing it? Yeah, yes and no. And I think it is a good game, and I think it's, I could see why it's a Game of the Year contender thing, but it's just like, I don't know.
There's times that it feels like really awesome to play, and you feel like you've just got to build that clicks and you can just smash anything in your way. But then other times it feels like you're the one getting smashed. You just don't have the power that you need to get through it,
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just kind of like a new can of worms each time, and it can be pretty exhausting and even intimidating to start another run sometimes. Especially if you have some really bad stuff happen to you. Like, especially, I would take the butterfly trinket, where, you know, if you clear each stage without taking any damage, you get a permanent, like, 2% damage increase.
Each time it stacks.
Yeah, each time, and it stacks. So anytime that I would take even like a slight amount of damage in a level early game, I'd be like, well, this is a dead run. I've already lost my optimization by missing just one of the early game levels, you know. So,
and that's totally funny because it's not. But your mindset is like, you're so... I've done that too, where I've just gotten the first couple boons or something, and I'm like, nope, this isn't going to be good. But, you know, it can totally evolve into something that's successful. But
you can always make it work, in my opinion, but you for sure need to adapt your own mind around the idea that losing isn't always going to be a bad thing, unless I guess you're trapped in that early game spell. You're always learning, you're always improving, even when you die. That I can understand that that's not something that's just easy and innate to grasp, but it helps. It goes a long way because this is a repetitive game by nature, and it's you know, down to your reflexes and stuff, and it's going to be harder and less enjoyable that way. Especially if you give up on yourself, you're bound to have a bad time.
Hell yeah. That's me.
Yep. And I would give up on myself almost immediately. I wish I could just jump right into that river sometimes and go swimming back
I guess
home.
there is a give up option, right?
Yeah, but
there is, but it's bad.
I'm pretty well versed in the give up option, but it doesn't change anything. Like, the first boon that you get is always the same one.
That almost sounds like cheating, because you could know. Like, you could get a head start then if you did.
Yeah, but the subsequent ones, you know, aren't. They're not the same. But the first one, like, I'd jump in and I would see, like, oh, great, it's this. And I wouldn't want to start a build with this specific boon or whatever.
The game gives you options, but yeah, I think you guys were your own worst enemy sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah. I'm not going to deny that. And I think I was my own worst enemy because I was getting trounced so much.
Yeah.
And it was like...
I can definitely see that. Well, I mean, I have reached that mindset finally, but I guess the bar for me was a little higher where the game did start to feel punishing, and it did feel like it was working against me, not wanting me to succeed. But everyone's threshold is going to be different, and I guess I wish there were more granular difficulty options. Maybe that would help. Yeah. Instead of just one easy mode checkbox, because you know, I think everyone deserves to have fun and see what's in this game because it's so well crafted. But if they're gonna put a roadblock like that in front of you and like demoralize you, I think that something could be done to improve that.
Yeah, if they could just make it somehow, even though there's so many upgrades already, you know, in the game, just about everything that you can unlock will upgrade to some extent. So I feel like they just really want you to grind out and get those upgrades incrementally and slowly. Like, even though there's so many ways to play the game, they definitely want you to just be playing the game a whole lot.
Yeah, and
to
that's
get them.
Kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's still so much that I haven't seen, and I have, you know, been playing for 35 hours or something like that.
Even I feel like that, and I've got like double, triple that.
So what the fuck?
It never ends.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool, I guess, if you want Hades to be your one game. Like, this is the game you're going to be playing for months. Like, it's certainly well crafted. It certainly deserves the attention. It certainly deserves to be played, but like, I don't want
When
to see
does
that.
it stop?
Yeah, I want to see the weapons now. I want to build around them now. I don't want to have to build up to them.
The game has a high ceiling for people who want to challenge themselves, but the floor, I don't know. That it's really weird.
The floor is lava.
And they make it like you have to inch, crawl, scrape your way. It doesn't matter what skill level you are. You're going at their dreadfully slow pace to see everything.
Yeah.
And if you're having a harder time with the game, they slow you down even more. It doesn't, even if you go fast. I have so many people, NPCs and prophecies, like the quests that pop up. I just had, 60 plus runs into the game, and Dusa says, "Hey, you cleaned up this area in the house. that I did in my first 5 runs of the game. Like,
Wow.
everything takes forever, no matter what your skill level. So I guess the more I think about it, the more punishing it seems.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, it seems like they kind of want you to have this idea that they like dumped so many like hours of voiced content into the game that it seems like there's an almost endless pool of voices and stuff. But in reality, I think it's finite. You know, you can drain it, you can run out of talking points, but it's just so hard and so circumstantial that I don't know if anyone can realistically expect to do that.
It's spread really thin. It does give the game a sense of life. Like, the characters feel pretty realistic in terms of their characterization, and I guess part of that is because they've been written about so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit draining for sure.
I was, part of me was toying around with the idea of getting to the epilogue and playing more, but then just knowing how humongous of a task it'd be and how much more I'm going to have to go through the same 4 areas.
Yeah, I kind of wish there were more areas in the game too, because it's 3 and like a half areas kind of.
Yeah, more bosses or something. Like,
it'd be cool if there was if there were more areas that were also randomly put in. Like, you always start out in Tartarus or whatever, but then maybe you start going into some, like, there's a pool of different areas that might be next. It'd be kind of interesting.
It is kind of strange. I mean, the game is handcrafted and pretty faithful to, what it's based on, and that's probably part of the handicap as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're so limited. I believe that those are all tiers of the underworld in actual Greek mythology, so they were kind of stuck there. But, how many more could they have pulled from? I don't know the mythos well enough.
Kiowa?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few different realms, the bottommost one being Chaos. And
they have that in the game.
Yeah, it's all part of the like tree of the mythologies and everything that connects, Greek mythology to Norse mythology to Egyptian mythology. It's all based around like this like this symbolic tree, essentially, of which, Chaos is a realm, Tartarus is a realm, every single realm, Asphodel, So I think theoretically you could definitely squeeze some other realms into there, but you would have to probably even venture into alternative mythologies.
So there's no other underworld areas in Hades in the world of Greek mythology.
I think the only thing down beneath Tartarus, the lowest level of Hades, is Chaos.
Okay.
So and he even says that he exists kind of like underneath as like the foundation of Tartarus, which is like the foundation of everything else upward. You in that you can't go any lower than Chaos. It's like bedrock.
And there you would have had to probably fill each new area with bosses, NPCs, stuff to do and see. And part of the reason the game looks and sounds so good is because they really meticulously crafted all of this stuff.
Very focused.
That they have.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if they'll make a sequel for this game.
What would they do?
I don't know. More story. Like, they already teased on like Beowulf, on Arthur, on all these other characters from all these other different sects of mythology. So it's possible that we could just entirely see some crossover into other realms of mythology.
It felt like flavor to me, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, that's true. It could be flavor. Yeah. Or maybe just entirely new games based around some of those characters or something. Who knows what Supergiant's going to throw at us next?
Yeah, I gotta, I don't really like...
Go on, speak your mind. This is a loving and caring triad.
This is this is also going out into the public sector.
And no one will ever get mad at any opinions on the internet, ever.
Okay. Yeah, this is just my opinion, but as much as everything in Supergiant games seem to be made just for me, I don't really like most of their games at all. Like, this comes from being a music appreciator. Like, Darren Korb's music is It's so good. I love all the music and artwork in all of their games. They all seem interestingly, like the stories and stuff seem interesting, but damn, there's just something about them that does not click at all with me.
I'm like 100% with you.
Yeah, like I beat Pyre and had fun because of the story. Like the gameplay in that, it was very bare bones.
Yeah.
But it was still like fluid and stuff. But this game, like the gameplay is actually like good. So I'm very curious about, their next titles, how much they'll take from Hades and put into their next game. And, this is definitely their magnum opus so far, like their best release, big time.
Yeah, I agree. The only other Supergiant game the games that I have played are Transistor and Bastion. And I never beat Transistor.
Oh, and Pyre, yeah.
Yeah, and Pyre.
Yeah. Those are the only 4 that I know of.
Yeah, I never really was able to be captured by Transistor, and Bastion. It was okay, but I wouldn't say at the end of the day it was a really great game either.
Yeah, it was the same with those 2 games.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the Greek mythology really just sucked me in, and then there's a lot that you can explore in this game. And I've just had a fun time with it, just playing with the builds, and like everything just seemed so fluid. And I was just very impressed the first time I started playing this game, even back in early alpha when there wasn't really any way to progress to an ending. That was still enough to capture a guy like me, because I was just into that action, the roguelite, the character building for all of my favorite characters from mythology, and yeah, it just seemed like a really well put together project at the end of the day. And I know those roguelites aren't for everyone, and even I was finding myself to be pretty exhausted towards the end of my runs before the end of the game. Mm-hmm. And even the end of the game isn't the true ending of the game.
Yeah, there's more.
Yeah, overabundance of content can be a good thing if you've got a whole lot of time, but also can be kind of overwhelming if you don't exactly have a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about their games, strangely, I think, is they have a narrative that's really strong, and it's well put together with all the other elements of their presentation. But there's always a game tied to it that you kind of have to push through to see all of that. Mm-hmm. And they're usually good, but there's nothing... It's almost like they're overshadowed completely by the rest of the elements of the game, and you don't care about that anymore. You just want to see the best bits, even if they're a good game. Like, yeah, Pyre was so well put together. It was smooth, but, it just wasn't interesting the gameplay wasn't interesting compared to everything else.
Right. Yeah, and that's what, like, everyone talked... What is this shit on Supergiant Hour right now? No, but everyone talked about Bastion when it came out. I remember everyone was like, "This game's so fucking cool." Like the narrator like talks, about you and what you're doing in the game. And then I played it, and it just felt like such a gimmick, and like it felt like almost like a Flash game with this cool narrative thing tied to it. And I thought, like, this is what everyone likes this game? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I felt the same way.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that narrator, the game wouldn't have really stood out too much, in my opinion.
Right. But then they upped it with Transistor, where I felt like the gameplay was certainly a lot more polished and everything in the world, and music. I think Transistor has my favorite soundtrack that they've made so far, but like the music in that game was excellent. Everything was really cool, has that cool vibe. But yeah, the gameplay once again just didn't do it. And I just, this game, they seem to have fired all the cylinders. This game, no mistakes in really anything. There's like everything is tied together really well. The gameplay holds everything together. And yeah, it seems like they made the gameplay around the story in a much more synchronous way, where it didn't feel out of place. Like, it makes sense that you're fighting through all these layers and has this roguelite element. Like, everything is tied together really, really well. And all the things, like, are explained. Like, it's interesting, like, the gods' boons. are randomized, and there's a reason for it in the story, you know, like, and there's a reason why you die and have to repeat. Like, it's really, really cool. Like, they really planned a lot. It feels like they've, you know, went super hard on this game and made it the best they could, and then it's really good.
Yeah, and there's like, it's so cool, like, especially when you know a little bit about mythology too. You can just like see where certain things are going in like certain directions too. Mm-hmm. Like, one little thing that is pretty interesting is that everyone was saying that, or everyone calls you cousin, right? All the gods call you cousin. But as far as I'm aware, Dionysus is your brother, because he was born to Persephone and guess who? Zeus. Yeah.
Dionysus was born from them?
Yeah.
What?
In canon mythology.
There is an interesting, probably, I don't know if it's an Easter egg or something, when you speak with Orpheus and Zagreus says, hey, you know, me and Dionysus have an interesting connection that I bet you didn't know about. That may reference that. Oh my gosh,
dude. Oh, wow.
And he's saying it as a joke, but, you know, maybe they are poking fun at their own source material that they're pulling from and how they're telling it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, because I had to do some actual research, because I had to at least just Google Zagreus. You know? And they call Zagreus the Orphic Dionysus Zagreus. Where Dionysus, who was the son of Zeus and Persephone, and then Zagreus from the game is the son of Hades and Persephone. So, just because of the way that so much of this history and all the story is actually lost to like translational errors and issues like that, they eventually merged the original Dionysus and Zagreus into a single character called just Dionysus.
Whoa.
And it can refer to both of them. So there truly is a weird connection between Dionysus and Zagreus. So they were, even though they were just poking fun at it. And then, some people say too that Zagreus might just potentially be the son of Zeus in the first place. And that Hades truly can't have an heir.
Oh yeah, then why is his feet on fire?
That's
Explain
a great
that.
question. Maybe just because he was born of the gods in the underworld and took on the, features of the domain of the underworld. I don't exactly know the mechanics of, god birth. God birth. So, but, it's just, there's an interesting connection. And at one point, I was talking to Zeus, and Zeus just said some really weird shit. He was like, we're so close, aren't we? Like, we might as well just go around and basically tell people that you're my son.
Yeah, dude, I had that same line.
Whoa.
They really, oh my God, they covered every single base they could think of.
Yeah, what the hell? That's insane.
The Orphic Dionysus Zagreus. Which is a fusion of the characters Zagreus and Dionysus into one
they used
character.
Polymerization.
Yeah, literally.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're interested in all of these tiny details that would slip past someone who didn't know anything about the mythology, just keep playing the game forever and you might stumble across it.
Yeah, there's more. I'm sure there's so many more things like that in the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's this trait of many religions where there's like a singular figure of the religion who is constantly caught in a death and rebirth cycle. And for Greek mythology, that character is Dionysus, because he was eaten and attacked by the Titans and cursed to be basically reanimated and constantly dismembered over and over. And just becoming back in different strange forms.
Now, do you think that due to the translation thing, do you think that was intended to be Zagreus?
I think so. I mean, I think you could argue that could potentially be Zagreus. Like, I think a lot of it's open to interpretation too, because there's no there's no actual, right
no
answer
canon
to those questions. Yeah,
Greek,
there is
Greek
no
mythology is all just fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why you ship, you're like, ooh, Thanatos x Zagreus, and then you want to ship these characters together, and then you do, and then you write a fan fiction about them having a kid, and then that kid, then it's canonized into the Greek mythology.
Then you make a game studio, you make a game about it where you can do that, and it's canon.
Yep, this is essentially just, I think you've described this before as a sequel to Greek mythology, right, Kyle?
Yeah, it feels like it takes place after a lot of the events of Greek mythology that have been like written about and are like mainstream accepted,
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of in the area after that where no one really has a clear answer of what happened next.
Yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it.
So this is the next chapter, and this is canon now.
Yeah, exactly, and they frequently talk about all the Titans just like attacking and messing up all the gods, and the gods went to war with them and destroyed all of the Titans who were their parents originally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all true. Like, Hades is the oldest child of the Titan Oranos.
The oldest and best.
Oldest and best, yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, he got the short end of the stick, as you can imagine, being trapped in the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
Writing on all his little papers.
I love that sound effect in there. Just as a side note, when you go into the House of Hades and he's writing at his desk and it's like,
yeah,
I'm like, yes,
ASMR.
dude. ASMR, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you walk up to Hypnos and he goes, wow.
Yeah, and then he goes,
remember how you died, idiot?
Yeah, and then
There's plenty of great little sounds in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent sound design.
Okay, which is your favorite then? If there's so many.
My favorite is when you pop open when you collect a nectar.
Oh.
And it's like,
yeah, dude.
I can't do it justice.
That is good.
It's a very
when
good
you have
sound.
when you have a little drink with somebody and you hear that.
Oh yeah.
You pop that cork and you hear it and it sounds like there's a lot of nectar in there.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think my favorite one is when you walk into the House of Hades and you can hear Hades going
I'd never thought of that one.
writing on the paper. That's my favorite.
That's a good one.
Well, Cole, what kind of notes did you have, dude?
Oh man. There's a lot. I think probably going back to Supergiant, they probably need a little more. They're patching this game too is an interesting thing. We already played at least when I started the game, 1.0 had come out over a month ago and they already had a patch like the day before I really jumped in. So they're fine-tuning stuff. But
Will they be adding content though?
I don't know if they're going to add content.
They don't need to. They don't need to.
They don't. Yeah, they don't need
There's
to.
already so much.
There are some core, things that I think that anybody who was making a game, that was almost the exact same as this, but wanted to make better changes to it. What kind of things would a person want to get it closer to perfect? And maybe that's up to interpretation for everyone. But what's an aggravating thing in the game that you feel like shouldn't have been there? How about how they make the characters almost too real to their own characterization? You walk up to them and you're like, I want to give them a nectar and talk to them. You talk to them first and they say, nope, I'm leaving. And then you can't give it to them.
Yeah, even if they stay there, you can't give the nectar.
You can sometimes, but if you progress like a storyline or something, I think, then it like prioritizes that and you can't hear the new dialogue.
Yep.
There's weird priority shifting going on. At the point of the game I'm at, I've done like 15 runs since I've hit the cap of relationships with certain people, and there's like no way to advance it. even though I have what it takes.
You
There's
have
so
to,
many
they're
weird
tied up by
roadblocks.
some other quest line or something else needs to be accomplished before you can actually advance their plot, and it doesn't at all spell out what to do usually. So
Yeah, you can get prophecies way after you've already like completed them. They just don't give them to you. They don't make any of this clear, and it's so incremental. Like gods are just telling me generic lines that have nothing to do with anything anymore. They refuse to unlock the later potential of their relationship. I have no more prophecies to do. There's a lot of issues, and because the game is so cohesive, all of these elements interplay, this presents issues elsewhere with, it took so long to figure out what some of those boss drops even did. Like, you probably haven't even gotten
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia. Completely useless forever. And then don't spend it thinking that, there's no use they're telling me about it. I better trade it away for other stuff. You do that, you're screwed once you actually figure out what it's for. Those are some big problems that I would have changed had I known about them. And I don't know if they can change that stuff anymore.
Like the use for them? Or I think they could at least tell you something, can't they?
Yeah,
like
they should make it more obvious. It's interesting you can trade like Ambrosia away for Titan Blood, because Titan Blood is way more useful immediately. But, by the time I figured out what Ambrosia was even for, I had over 50 or 60 of it.
Oh, wow.
And then suddenly it's like, if you beat the epilogue, they give you 20 more. It's ridiculous how much I had before I ever even knew what it was for. And then it's like you need 10 or more to max a companion. And to even get the companions, you got to be giving Ambrosia to people for their relationships. Those are the uses for it. It's not obvious because no one ever makes mention of it until you just reach that point.
What the hell? Yeah, I don't know. If I could make any adjustments, I guess I would just put I don't know why the Path of Punishment or whatever, the Pact of Punishment is locked away at first. I think it should be available from the beginning.
There's a check box when you start the game that unlocks it right away, but I think it's also probably
it gives
makes
you
the
like
rest of the game-
permanently a couple levels into
it seems like it's just hard mode and it unlocks the pact, but that's not the solution.
Yeah.
I just would have liked to be able to grind that. I think that would have alleviated some of my initial frustrations, because I would have liked to been able to have from the beginning been grinding out Titan's Blood and whatnot to get different aspects of weapons.
Oh yeah, that
right
is a
from the
good
get-go.
point.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that there's like nothing. I was, getting darkness and stuff to upgrade my talents in the mirror. There's other stuff to do, but it just felt like that's what I was interested in doing, and it felt like that was I was making significant progress towards that in the later half of my playtime, but not in the beginning, which felt like a waste in retrospect.
Yeah, it really does.
I can see that.
How about you, Kaiwa?
Well, I think I've already lamented enough about how much I love this game and love Greek mythology.
Yeah. So there's nothing you would change?
I think it's pretty like darn near where I would have designed it myself, Like the only thing I would do is maybe make it a little bit easier to unlock character interactions, because sometimes characters just don't even show up for you in the first place.
Yeah.
Like sometimes characters are just randomly gone with no explanation for it. And you just don't even have access to them. So if it was up to me, I would just definitely make it a little bit easier to unlock these character interactions. Because, I don't think a lot of people will actively go out of their way and seek out every single tiny little interaction with people. But that's one of like the pretty much requirements, I guess, of the epilogue, right? Or at least it has something to do with it, I'm guessing.
I don't know in particular what it takes to unlock the epilogue, and that's what another strange thing is.
Yeah.
I saw in patch notes while I was actively playing something that mentioned Zeus would be easier to progress the epilogue with or something. And then I unlocked it right. They started mentioning it more right after I maxed out relationship with Persephone, but I was also working on every single god. It's not clear. I don't know. And it took a lot of effort on all the ideas I had to even reach the point where I kind of understood where I was going.
Gotcha.
So basically just run the game hundreds and hundreds. Just do hundreds of runs and just hope.
Yeah, and I like the runs. I like the gameplay. But yeah, if they could just tone it down just a little bit to get to all those unlockables, I would be much appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only thing I would change, is that, just make it easier to unlock those interactions.
Yeah, I think the gameplay and progression and stuff is very solid otherwise. Like, there's nothing wrong with the action. It feels very fair. It's very rarely... in fact, I don't think... Other than my controller, I don't think I've ever been like, oh, this game is unfair. Oh, and other than just hitting the guy at the side. Hitting a shield guy from the side and having it be blocked. That's the other thing. I'm like, nah. But other than that, everything is very crystalline, perfect.
No weapon durability.
That would, yeah. There are like really weird tiny things that I had issue with, like the shield gating. The guys who have armor, I guess it's called.
Yeah.
The yellow health bar where you can't stagger them. It's gated where you cannot, damage doesn't bleed through that to their health.
Yeah.
Once you deplete it. So it requires a certain amount of hits, which, again, is back to my attack speed. Faster weapons are better. Mm-hmm. You can hit for thousands of damage with your slowest, most powerful weapon, but if they have 1 point of armor, you're going to have to hit them again.
Yeah. And it's not going to apply to their health. It's just going to break the shield. Not.
Exactly, yeah.
Those shield guys, I'm not a fan.
Or the shield guys with the armor.
I mean, the armor guys, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Armor guys.
Yeah, and shield guys with armor were the worst because... you normally with the normal shield guys, at least if you get a good shot in from behind, you can stagger them probably long enough to get in enough shots to kill them. But when they have armor, they'll just turn around. And then now you're totally screwed because they can attack you and you can't attack them.
The armor in this game, very punishing if you don't treat it with trepidation. If you handle it like any other encounter, fighting an armored enemy, then you're in for a treat. You're in for a couple hits.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever try out that Hermes build I was talking about? That's the last thing I was never
a fan of Hermes as much as I would get even his good boons. I'm not into what they provided.
Hermes was a last resort for me.
Here's the build. All right, here's what you got to do. You got to start out with the Hermes feather. Max it out, all right? So that's already 2 runs. 2 runs before you can even get to this build.
Okay.
So Hermes feather, where you just anytime you clear a stage fast enough, you get more speed. It gives you plus 3% movement speed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so you stack that as much as you can. Then you bank on getting a random Hermes boon, where your attack damage, this is probably his rarest thing. I don't see him drop this one very often, but where he increases your attack damage by a percentage of your move speed. And you can combo that with your move speed. Just be picking move speed traits all game long whenever you get the chance to take Hermes. And then get the 1-2 where anytime you dash, you gain a big boost of move speed and sturdy. And then you can just do dash strikes on the enemy and you'll get that extra move speed on top of the feather, on top of whatever other move speed you've got. And you'll be dealing just insane amounts of damage. And that was just one of my favorite builds when I ever actually was lucky enough to get that one attack damage scaling buff.
Wow. That just proves that you can make a build out of just anything. That's the coolest shit. Things synergize so well, and I gotta say, they really thought of how these things interact. That's
sometimes
very well planned. Yeah, some of them.
Well, most
some
of the
them
time. I mean, you ever wonder about Demeter? Demeter is cool in her debuff of the frost and everything, but then what's really weird is that cast of hers that puts down the crystal beam takes so much support from other boons of Demeter's to seem useful, and it doesn't apply her frost debuff.
Oh yeah,
unless you get a specific boon from her that allows it to do that.
Isn't that weird?
That is really weird. Yeah, otherwise I feel like I really liked that build. I think I had
Yeah.
that one with the Zeus one,
Oh,
where lightning strikes if the little casts are out on the field.
Yeah.
And then also her buff where it's like, oh, if you don't have any casts, you deal 10% or X amount percent more damage. And you have defense too, I think, from that, if you don't have any casts in your thing. So it was just like, throw these out and leave them there, and I'm just fucking strong. And there's just damage being applied. Oh, it's so good. There's just so many cool things, so many cool builds.
yeah. Yeah, honestly, yeah, there's no shortage to builds. And I bet we could just talk about builds all day and we could not even scratch the surface of what some people have done.
Yeah, very, very true. Well, what do you guys think? What else?
I've said my piece. I love the game. I think it's an epic game. Honestly, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Personally, one of my favorite games I ever played.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, one of my favorite. Just the mythology really did it for me. I was just ecstatic every time there was any new developments. And yeah, it would just trigger joy. Anytime I made any major accomplishments, had a really fun time with the build and the gameplay. And it's a game that stays hard even all the way to when you're at like late game builds even can fall apart if you just don't do what you're supposed to, so you always got to be on your toes. Very exciting game to play. Yeah, I would change just like a couple things I said about it, like making conversations and dialogue easier to unlock, especially when they have such a buffet of it available, but sometimes they don't want to give it to you. So yeah, honestly, one of my favorite games ever.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm glad we all got to play it for the podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I was playing it and I was just like, oh my gosh, guys, I gotta stop playing this game and wait till we can all play it together for the podcast.
Yeah,
and
that probably
I
took a
saved
lot.
the gameplay just for us to all play together.
Yes.
So
I'm glad you
I'm
picked
glad.
it.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
good pick.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys slogging through hell with
It wasn't a slog for me, buddy. I had a lot of fun with it too. 9 out of 10, that's a good score. I'd probably give it that score too. It's,
good.
there's a lot of good games out there. I love roguelites. Hades has got to be the best, most well-crafted of them all. 9 out of 10 is a good score. It's not my favorite, probably because I don't have that attachment to the mythology as much,
Sure.
but it's hard to argue that it's a great game. That's it.
Agree.
Yeah,
Agree.
you really loved it too. 9 out of 10.
I'm not gonna give it a number score. I don't
Okay.
like doing that in general, but
Me either. I just I wanted to be on the level with Kyle. I agree. It feels like it's in that upper echelon.
Yeah,
It's not
it does.
perfect.
Yeah,
but it's so
I
good.
just
right.
threw that in for my own benefit, just to
Yeah.
say how much of a fanboy I am for this game.
if I remove myself from it, yeah, it's definitely a 9 out of 10. Like anybody can tell it if you just play it. Like it's so polished and well made, like, and fluid. There's it's a very well crafted game and it's fun. So I mean, I agree. It's a 9 out of 10 game, but I don't know if it's a 9 out of 10 game.
All right.
If you remove yourself.
If I remove myself from it, just
And
being
your personal
completely
preferences.
being completely unbiased, yeah, it's absolutely like a 9 out of 10 game.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
take our merit system.
Yeah, if we look at our merit system and our presentations,
Oh yeah.
presentations, everything like that we were made for the debates or whatever.
This one would score highly.
Yeah, definitely.
Bigly.
I think as far as it just feels like I played two different games in a way. Like my
Really?
experience was just divided. So it's really weird for me to put a score on it for my own, personal score, or to place it anywhere, because I just feel like I had a really bad time and then a really good time. And I just don't, they're just so far off to me. They're separate. It's really strange. I don't know. But I liked it. I think overall I liked it. And, if anybody asked, I would definitely recommend it. It's just weird. It's weird for me. I don't know.
I can understand it. I can appreciate it. It's not going to resonate with everyone the same.
I certainly, I don't know. I go back and forth from it. I haven't really formed a solid opinion yet. But I know it's well crafted and it is fun to play, but sometimes it's not fun to play. That's all.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair assessment. Like sometimes I've definitely been in the game and I've just been having a bad time with how bad I was doing in the game. For me, it's basically do good, happy, do bad, angry. So personally, for me, that's just the experience I found myself having. But yeah, I'm just a huge fanboy of the mythology, so that really carried it for me. Even through its lowest moments for me, I was still had a fiery passion to continue.
I guess same in a way.
I had an almost undying passion to keep playing.
Yeah, I wanted to quit, but I did want to see I wanted to see the journey to the end for sure. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad I did. I'm glad I persevered. It was worth it. And it did feel good to start beating Hades. No, everything that I complained about in the first 15 hours of the game was fixed, was rectified for me in my later time playing, which is interesting. It felt like I was making progress and I was in tune and just having a good time and engaged.
Well, yeah.
You want to close her out?
Yeah, thanks for playing my pick of the month. My first pick for the MIDFES podcast, Hades. I think it went over fairly well. I think it was a decent game to all experience together. Lots of stuff going on. Little bit of an intro. Now you guys know so much about Greek mythology. You know just about as much as me. So
now I know the ending of it.
Yeah, now you know the end.
So now I don't really want to go. I want to go back. I don't want to really go back and read the beginning because I'm kind of spoiled for.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I appreciate you guys playing it with me. It was fun. Fun time.
It was fun. I'm
game
glad
to
that
play.
you recommended it.
Yeah, I am too. I think it was a good one. Like all that stuff I said, I still think it was really fun. It was good. It was a good time.
Well, that's perfect. I'm glad you guys enjoyed my pick.
Hell yeah.
What's next on the menu for MIDFEST?
Yeah, is someone else picking or?
Oh well, next you guys, come on. It's the mutual pick.
I'm not playing dumb. I swear.
We kind of take turns picking and then all picking a game. We take personal picks and mutual picks. And you guys know this mutual pick, right? We all have this game picked we had it fingered for a while, right?
Yeah.
We did,
I think
but
so.
I'm going to play dumb, even though I'm not.
We did, but it was kind of hard to pin down when exactly it was coming out. So it's been on the lam.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been at our peripherals, but now I think we can finally say that we are going to be covering a big, huge game that everyone is so excited for, called Cyberpunk 2077. By the time that this episode's out, the game should be out, unless it's postponed again. But we'll see. So we intend to cover that one next. It'll be a big one. There'll be a lot of stuff to be talking about, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's also our very first time covering a new game.
A brand new game.
Fresh release.
Yeah, well, this Hades one, I guess 1.0 did come out somewhat recently, I guess, but
that's what even allowed us to pretty much pick this one as a game, because we didn't all want to play it in early access.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll be covering CD Projekt Red's almost probably one of the most hyped up games in recent memory.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves endorsed. He's
in it. He says it's going to be good. Talked to him on the phone last night, and he said, "You're going to really love Cyberpunk. Please cover it into your podcast." And I said, "I'll see what I can do." And yeah, I think we're going to be covering that next. So
I'll be looking forward to it, and I don't know anything about it going into it, though.
Yeah, I know a little bit, but
yeah, me neither. I'm pretty blind to it even now.
Yes, good. Well, in that case, I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff to say about it. I suppose that'll wrap up our current Hades episode. Thank you all very much for tuning in, for listening, And we love you so much. Thank you very much. Have a happy midnight.
Happy midnight.
Happy midnight.